What's happening, guys? Happy Wednesday, and welcome to the Dynasty WarZone, the People's Dynasty podcast. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the latest thing hitting fantasy Twitter, and we'll be talking some Dynasty trades. But if you saw the title of the show, it is The Return of the King. But if you don't know who that is the man of the hour and the man with the power, Jerry Sinclair. How are you?
I am good. I love to hear you call me the king. It's wonderful. It's one of the best Lord of the Rings movies, too. While we're just going to nerd out for a second, how in the absolute hell have you been, my friend?
Buddy, I'm good. Over the weekend, man, I was sick as a dog. Luckily, my wife took sympathy on me. It was our wedding anniversary on Sunday. So, but luckily, our marriage can legally vote.
Okay, all right. Look at you guys.
Can no longer buy cigarettes, but can legally vote in the U.S. And but we were already planning on celebrating this coming weekend, so got to pass on that. We got a lot of shows coming out. I mean, everybody. It seems like everybody has something going on. Vacations coming up, and someone's wife is dragging them to a pumpkin patch or an apple orchard, or they're taking the fall photos. I mean, you see these kind of things on social media, Jer.
I do. And listen, if the Lions get shut out one more time, I'm going to be making a lot of trips to the pumpkin patch on Sundays.
Except this time it would be your idea instead of Mrs. Jerry's idea to go to the pumpkin patch. I could hear Miss Jerry coming in the front room and being like, "Hey, Jerry, you gonna watch the Lions today?" "No, hon. I thought we'd go to an apple orchard, maybe sip some cider, and make an apple pie."
I'm a huge fan of hot ciders too. They're awful, but hot cider is such an underrated delicacy. Oh, it gets me. I'm not a pumpkin spice guy so much. I know it gets all the press. Hot cider though hits, man.
So pumpkin spice overrated.
Yeah.
And hot cider underrated.
Yeah, I mean normal apple cider is good too, but not like the hot cider.
Yeah, I want to like fall. Like I like the weather of a Midwest fall. I'm Indiana, and you're now Iowa, so I like that. I like that weather. What gets me down is that it's like winter's right around the corner.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to go Christmas shopping. You're gonna be sloshing around in the snow. Driving's already a pain in the ass. It's gonna be more pain in the ass. So fall itself is great. Winter just sucks ass so bad that it really drags down fall by comparison.
I'm with you.
It's almost the Justin Fields. It's almost the Justin Fields of the Bears skills position. But we're going to jump into all the fantasy football, all the takes, all the stuff, all the things. Just want to make sure to give a shout out to our crew. We got our main man, Mr. Kyle August, over at the FF SmackDown. He's doing the waiver wire report. He is doing waiver wire sniping. He does that a day early. He does that on video on YouTube on Saturdays. That comes out as a Sunday podcast. He does his show that normally drops on Tuesday. Dallas,
everybody beat me by 0.02 points in a league, so I hope he stubs his toe in the most violent way.
You hope he beat you by decimal point 0.02.
0.02. Mm-hmm.
So by like that much.
Yeah, so either a stub toe or a paper cut or something. I really hope that is in his future because of that.
There's an analogy I use, but I'm only going to take the profanity so far. I think you know the one. Yeah. It starts with a C. They're a big fan of it in England. Our boy Dallas dropped a first quarter rookie review report card. That came out this past Monday. Jesse and Chad, they had Mike on last week. They did spooky Dynasty players, very in the vein of the holiday coming up with Halloween. And Tyler and Lou did take the DFS week off. Again, vacations, travel, fall break, etc. But though they should be back this week. And then you and I are back together, reunited, and it feels so good. So we're going to jump into this. But before we do, just wherever you're listening, if you're just listening, just hit pause and leave us a 5-star review if it's Spotify or Apple. It'll take you just a second. If you want to type up some kind words, we would certainly appreciate that the most. But we do love reviews. And then social media. Jerry was talking about being a nerd on social media. We're on all of them, even TikTok now. that's my fall vacation plans, is for me to, I'm going to be spending more time with my son than like playing baseball. So we're going to be on a plane and I'm going to have him give me a full tutorial, Jerry, on how to use TikTok.
I cannot wait to see.
I'm going to do some dances. It's going to be, that if you didn't watch, if you didn't see what if you can't see it, it's because you're not on YouTube. And if you go over to YouTube, you can like a video, you can leave some comments, you can interact with us like Mike Kinney here in the live chat as we're doing this live on a Tuesday night. And if you just need to reach us, you can shoot me a DM at DWZ Memphis. You can DM at JerrySend DWZ, or you can email the show. Maybe you're like, fuck Twitter. And that's cool too, because sometimes Twitter's like a place you don't want to be. So maybe you want to shoot us an email, dynastywarzone@gmail. That simple. It's dynastywarzone@gmail.com. Shoot us a question or two. So, Jerry, are you ready for a special edition? And what's going to include a very patented Memphis rant? Good people, bad tweets.
There is nothing that I have looked forward to more in my 2-week absence, sir.
Okay, well, let's get into that. So over the weekend, it really started on like Friday. Now I was pretty sick, but you lay in bed, you're not feeling well, but you're watching stuff on your phone, and all of a sudden, there's this new. It's at I don't even know how to preface this. It's at Fantasy Receipts. All right, at Fantasy Receipts, it's a yellow circle on their Twitter avatar. The letters FR and a football. Jerry, are you familiar?
I am not. You brought it up in the pre-show. I have not been on Twitter because, sometimes it's a place you don't want to be. So it is news to me. So I am a listener as well.
So Fantasy Receipts, it literally started on Thursday or Friday. They've already got like 4,500 followers on Twitter. And Jerry, when you hear the name at Fantasy Receipts, what do you think they cover?
Oh, they are going to be pulling up them old takes.
Oh, sir. Well, they've taken our concept of good people, bad tweets, and just nuked it. I mean, they have been in action for 4 days. They have already got, like I said, 4,600 followers. I don't know how many tweets here, but they're to the point now where this has become such a popular thing that, are you familiar with Adam Rank from NFL? Yeah. He self-submitted. Moody. Moody's a good dude. At Eric N. Moody, quasi friend of the show. He got huge on ESPN, and he probably gets inundated with DMs and tweets. He's a Marvel fan like me, by the way. And he got outed. Just if you can think of Matt Kelly, Tyler Gunther, Jacob Rickroad, and on Nick Whalen, friend of the show, Nick Whalen. And I wasn't offended, Jerry. Did you know they got me?
Did they? What was it?
They did. Mine was about a horrible Jalen Hurts take. Where not this season, but last season, I was of the opinion that he was going to be a bridge QB. You know what, Jerry? You know what I wasn't when I saw my my little Twitter avatar and my name on their website?
A salty bitch.
You know what? No, I wasn't. Accountability is important. That was a bad take. I was a good person with a bad tweet. That's how this works. I am not immune to being called out for a bad take. That's how this works, Jerry.
True. That's how it should work, at least.
So I shot them a text today. Not a text. That's what I would send you. Is I sent a tweet and I tagged them in it, and I'll just kind of get to the nuts and bolts of it. And I was like, I'll tell you why I love Fantasy Receipts so much, because I believe accountability is king. Would you agree with that? That what we do, accountability is king.
Yes.
And I said, Jerry and I have been doing a segment on our podcast for about a year called Good People, Bad Tweets. And it's our way of checking the BS we see on Twitter, as well as our own BS. Because, again, we're not immune to these shenanigans. I said, we've never tore anyone down from a personal perspective. That's where the good people comes from. These are good people. These are bad tweets. That's why we do this. And I said, we should all own our mistakes. We should all embrace our mistakes and try to do better next time. And this is the part that really makes me salty. This is where I get salty. These people, I don't know if they're ladies, gents, bots, Elon Musk has taken over now. So God knows what the hell's, producing this content.
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, and Jerry, you can share yours, any analyst that blocks these guys does not care about your fantasy team. That's my opinion. Anyone who blocks or mutes or talks down about what these guys or what we do here on the show, they don't care about your fantasy team. They want to be Insta famous. They want to be Twitter famous, whatever the hell that is.
Right.
Because I care. I care. Do you care?
I do.
It bothers me more to know that a bad take of mine impacted a listener to this show more than it did my own roster. Because Jerry, the Patreons of our podcast, they will tell you I walk it like I talk it. I go out and I make the trades for the players I say I like. Not super thrilled to be holding a bunch of Austin Hooper right now, but that's how it works. That's how it works. And I care, because if you're listening to this podcast, you have a real team or teams. You're playing with real friends or with real people for real money with real results on the line. So when I give you a piece of advice, whether it's gambling, fantasy, dynasty, whatever, I take it personal when I miss. And I try to look back every time and say, where did I miss? What did I miss on Jalen Hurts? I'll tell you what I missed on Jalen Hurts is, even though he's not quite the thrower of the football of like a Kyler Murray or a Matthew Stafford, Jalen Hurts is what happens when someone who's super motivated to their craft and works and works and works. Yeah, going into last season, from what I had seen in the 2019 season, he wasn't a great thrower of the football, but he worked his ass off. That was my miss. So going forward, I will be looking for that hard work. But man, I'm going to get salty in a minute, but would you agree? How do you feel when you miss a take? Because you miss. Sometimes your misses are on like 13th century Mesopotamian, history, but more often than not, I don't know that's even a thing, to be quite honest, because I'm just a dullard. But when you give out advice or tweets or help people, I have to assume that it bothers you when you miss.
Yeah, I mean, for one, Mesopotamia was much earlier than that. But the thing about missing it,
so that was a bad take.
It was. Self-deprecation is sort of my game, but more than that, not just from an entertainer sort of aspect, you always want to learn and you always want to get better and you always want to evolve your craft, because a lot of us play a shitload of this game. Like, I don't know how many leagues you have. I have over 20. I'm guessing you're not that far behind that.
I'm right there in the pocket. I think last count was like 17, 18.
That's what I mean.
I did like one redraft this year with our patrons. We did the tag team wrestling, but outside that's like 17 dynasty leagues, and that's plenty.
Exactly. So, but so we when it comes to be buy-in season, that's a good chunk of money, and it can be, and we want returns on that, and we need to do that consistently so that we're able to play this game successfully year after year after year. Or at least you would think you would want to be successful at it. So you always have to adjust. You always have to learn, not even just with different players, but with different strategies as well. Like, I fell in love with certain players and I had them everywhere, and then they fell on their face. And I learned my lesson. Don't do that. So you can even buy into players that you don't like. Like, I was also absolutely foot in my mouth about Jalen Hurts. But that lesson that I had learned previously, even about players that I don't like, I still had a share or two, and those teams are doing great because I have Jalen Hurts, and I did that. So I will always say that you always want to learn. You always want to be credible. And to just ignore the times that you're wrong and the process as to how you got wrong, if you ignore that, you will never fix that problem. So you always have to go at it head first and do your best to correct it, and understanding that it exists is the first step in that. And that's why I like this account now. And I followed them immediately as you said that, because that's something I want to see.
I'm telling you, it's a great read. It's if you just scroll back, it's great.
With Twitter too. Like if I see somebody tell me about how awesome they did on a take, I immediately discredit them. That might not be fair on my part. I just don't want to hear about it. right? Like if you say that, whatever, like Kenneth Walker's, going to be good, or Breece Hall's going to be good. Okay, well, they were the 101 and the 102. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to talk about those guys for good reason. But, like, shut the fuck up. I say that from the bottom of my heart. Like, that's something that's stupid. If you have something like, Gabe Davis is a big topic of conversation. But, well, I told you Gabe Davis was going to hit. Okay, and next week when he goes 1 for 13, and you had him on the bench for the big game, and now you've got him starting because he had that big game last week, which doesn't help you next week. Are you going to talk about it? I bet you don't. I bet you ignore it. And then when he has another good game, you'll do the same shit. It's a process. It's learning. It's arduous. It's a mean game. We play a very, very mean game. I mean, I lost to Kyle by 0.02 points, and it was horrible. And I'm going to headbutt him next time I see him. But absolutely, accountability is key in this game.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I often tell myself I care more about your fantasy and dynasty teams than I care about my own. And that goes double for our patrons. I love the game, but I do believe that accountability is a big part of what we do. You're never going to, I don't have to tell you about my hits. You know what my hits are. You know what Jerry's hits are. You don't need me to remind you that I'm good at this, because I know that I'm good at this, because I know what my ROI is on my fantasy season every year. So I don't need to tell you that, and I don't need to hide from my mistakes. I own my mistakes, and I'm trying to correct them. So I'm not going to go into the specific list, and I'm not going to name names, because this is going to have more of a negative connotation of the people who block these guys or ladies. But fuck those people. If you're blocking them, that means you have something to hide. It means that you're not accountable, and you don't care that you led people astray. They're not negative. You're a thin-skinned little bitch, and there's like 6 or 7 of them. And write that down. That's a writer downer, Jerry. Mm-hmm. Don't be thin-skinned. These people, whether they listen to our show, someone else's show, you're reading their tweets, they're counting on us not to get it right. They want us to be entertaining. Try to entertain you, make you laugh, make you smile. A little self-deprecation, a little joke here or there, a little old dated movie reference, whatever that may be. Why you?
If that's what entertainment is, then goddamn it, we have a fantastic show, sir.
I mean, we like it, so I mean, we got that going for us, which is nice. But that's what I do. Number one, I want to be informative while being entertaining. Excuse me. And I want to help you build better dynasty rosters. But if you can't be held accountable, if blocking is your way of not being held accountable, you're a thin-skinned little bitch. And again, I'm not going to name names. You are soft as Charmin. And there's the one really gets under my skin. And it's not because of his tweets, except the ones where he posts tweets of himself in the gym benching, and the fucking bar never touches his fucking chest. That's no rep, dude. When you have a 4-inch gap between your bird chest and your bar, that's a no rep. That shit drives me way more crazy than your wacky fantasy football takes. Don't tell me you're benching 225. You're benching 0. The bar has to touch your chest. That's how it works. So anyway, that was a different version of good people, bad tweets. I will tell you, the fine folks over at Fantasy Receipts will be fueling. So like when I'm looking for a good person, bad tweet for this, a one-stop shop.
Hey,
we can make like a whole good people, bad
sweetheart.
We could do like a whole good people, bad tweets spinoff pod. But Jerry, that was good people, bad tweets. And I forgot to do this. This is the official kickoff of good people, bad tweets.
The Crip Mac on hood.
Little Crip Mac on hood. And as always, the good people, bad tweets is brought to you by our Patreon, patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. I'll tell you that the patrons, I'm going to do one of his trades at the end of the show where we say we take one from the fans. Daniel, he and I were discussing a trade. He kept me sane on Saturday because my wife and son didn't want me to be around him because I was sick, and he was doing 2 or 3 trades in 2 or 3 leagues, and for a good 45 minutes DMing back and forth about some of these trades. That really made the rough part of the day on Saturday a little bit, took my mind off of it, Jerry. And that's just one of the things that we do. He helps the show in more ways than one. So one-on-one assistance with your trades, with your dynasty leagues, seasonal league, start sits. DM's always open for patrons. They get bumped to the top of the list on trade questions, stuff like that. So, and it's still just $5 a month. There's no tiers. There's no you get it all. $5 a month, patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. Jerry, are you ready to talk about your man? It's finally time. Now, normally, we give a little, he's dropping the pen, the Sharpie, whatever that is. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, you saw that Sharpie drop. But your man, Michigan State, a Spartan dog, Kenneth Walker III, is going to get his time to shine. Now, how hard is it going to be in Dynasty to trade for him right now?
Hard, which, oh my God, look at this. The first thing I wrote about, Randy, who you trading to get him? How high you going? So I wrote a lot of very historically productive players, which are up there in age, that I would trade immediately for both Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall. Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara. Are you trading all three of them to acquire either of these guys?
You said Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, and Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
This will probably blow people's mind. I would offer any of those older gents, and they're all younger than me, but old in like relation to their service in the NFL. I would offer all of those gents, and I would try to get back Kenneth Walker in like a second, especially in a Superflex league. The problem is you're not probably going to be able to get that second, if at all, because people are going to want to see out what they're going to get out of Kenneth Walker. Now, can I add my 2 cents to this?
Yeah, shoot.
Because these are some of the notes that I took.
Okay.
Kenneth Walker missed a majority of training camp in the first, I believe it was 3 games of the season, with a core muscle sports hernia type surgery. He's just starting to get his legs under him. And by the time we get to like week 7, 8, he's going to have that callus that a football player gets on their body from playing football, which you typically get in summer camp and in the first few games of the season. And this guy, I think we saw, was it a 69-yard rushing touchdown?
Yeah, I think so.
Monster. It's a nice number. And he's one of the Breece Hall's another guy I want to talk about here in just a second.
Of course.
Kenneth Walker is one of the few guys that I'm not afraid to pay market for right now. Because even though the market's whatever the market is, a 2023 first plus, let's just say from a pick standpoint.
Yep.
That's only going to go up. We're going to look back in 3 to 6 weeks and we're going to be like, I got a bargain. I paid a first plus for Kenneth Walker and I got a bargain. So that's how I'm perceived. So that's how I'm going forward with Kenneth Walker. Even on a contender, I'm going to risk it for the biscuit, and I'm going to give you Alvin Kamara. I'm going to give you Dalvin Cook, and I'm going to give you Christian McCaffrey, because not only are all 3 of those dudes in year 6 of their career, all of them have already been banged up and on multiple injury reports this year. It's not, and in the case of Kamara, he's missed games. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When's the next injury shoe going to drop, which could happen to any player in the NFL. But if one of those older guys gets hurt and has a season-ending injury, their dynasty value's in the toilet. But if Kenneth Walker has a couple of 2 or 3 really good games, and for some reason he gets a season-ending injury, we've seen it before with Travis Etienne, Cam Akers, and so many more. The young guy, the rookie coming into year 2, is going to hold his value, is going to remain solid from a dynasty value perspective. So for me, I'm going to go out and get Mr. Kenneth Walker.
You know, it's funny because we just did this giant rant about how we don't like to do, pat ourselves on the back. What in the absolute hell did we say was going to happen with Kenneth Walker? It was going to be the first month of the season. He was going to split with Rashad Penny, and eventually he would either win out or Rashad Penny would get hurt.
It's the same. It's what that's how you termed it. Yeah. I termed it the Jonathan Taylor, Miles Sanders corollary. especially double down in his case because he came into the season injured. And I think Miles Sanders did too his rookie year. Again, you're going to get that callus, put on your body. You got to get those reps under your belt. You got to get back into every sport has it. Like I wrestled. You just don't show up and start wrestling. You get into wrestling shape. You just don't show up. You can be chiseled out of granite, see every muscle in your body, all the definition. But until you get no, Jerry, that's not a muscle.
Oh,
that looks just like a bicep, only smaller. But you can have every muscle in the body flexed. But until you get in that football shape, that cardiovascular training, and that's what he's going to get. That's what Miles Sanders got. Jonathan Taylor took a little time to fire. You're about ready to see a guy that's going to blow up. Oh, and here's the thing. Seattle has not one, but 2 first-round picks, both of them currently in the top 10 for 2023. Cross, the rookie tackle, been playing pretty good. They'll probably add another lineman. They may add a rookie QB. This is going to be that Detroit Lions, you're very familiar, where they're building all the things around. You got DK. You got Lockett. You got your franchise left tackle. You can draft some more pieces. You got Kenneth Walker. Now you can turn around and plug in a new quarterback with Kenneth Walker. This is going to be a really good offense, and it's going to get really good pretty quick. Get Kenneth Walker, get attached to it now, Jerry.
I'm with you. And then same thing for Breece Hall. I mean, Breece Hall is a star. We got a trade, a redraft trade.
I'm going to put that. Is that? Oh, that said redraft. Well,
yeah,
we can go ahead and transition. Anything else on Mr. Walker?
On K9? No, he's a star. I'm trading him. I'm getting him. Thank you. You saw it with the explosiveness, and now he's going to get the workload to go with that. I'll take it every time.
All right. So we have a YouTuber who popped in a question, said traded Najee Harris and Antonio Gibson for Breece Hall in redraft. I'm telling you, that's not too far off from like a good dynasty trade. But in redraft, hell yeah. Antonio Gibson's snap share is going down. Did you see, and I don't know how you could have missed it, that when Brian Robinson came out the other day, he came out to 50 Cent Mini Men. Awesome. That was awesome. That was
my youth.
Like Indiana Jones said, you've chosen poorly. Mm-hmm. Well, this is the exact opposite. Mr. Robinson, you chose correctly. That was cold. He came out. And then Najee. I don't think it's Najee's fault, but the offensive line's bad. And I'm going to already talk about Breece Hall, but as we get in there, but I mean, Breece Hall, Jerry, what a stud.
With every touch that he has gotten, he has been productive with it. That's an easy trade for me. And Najee, I agree that it's probably not Najee's fault, but I am not in the business to care about that. We are a production-based game that we play, and Najee ain't doing it. He's just not. And Breece Hall is. And Antonio Gibson, he's getting phased out. Like that last game, he did absolutely nothing. And not just didn't got the opportunity and did nothing, he didn't get the opportunity either for a guy that got shot. I mean, that says everything you need to know about what they think of Antonio Gibson. That's an easy trade, and I'm cool with that trade in Dynasty as well.
Yeah, I mean, where do you have you done any updated rankings? Because I was kind of going through my top 5 running backs earlier, and how high up do you have Breece Hall in your Dynasty rankings?
I mean, he would be up there because like while my heart wants to put DeAndre Swift above him, when does DeAndre Swift play? You know what I mean? Like I get 7 games of the year out of him. So, I mean, if I'm talking about comparing him to DeAndre Swift, you can imagine he's way up there.
So I still have Breece third. I've moved him up to third because I still have DeAndre Swift second. Because, I mean, what else do you want? I mean,
yeah.
I'm going to make Jonathan Taylor my RB1 in Dynasty for one more season.
Yeah,
unless something dramatic happens between now and February.
Yep.
99% sure I'm going to keep JT as my 101 running back. We've seen it.
Yep.
But it's going to be real hard by the time the calendar turns 2023, and it's going to be hard for Swift to hold off Breece Hall. I mean, I don't even know how many players in the league, non-quarterback, are putting up double-digit PPR points every single game. And he's on the Jets. And here's the thing. I think he had exactly 100 yards receiving on Sunday, had right at 100 on rushing, and what, 2 touchdowns?
No, 2 catches.
Two catches for 100 yards.
That's explosive.
I thought you meant the 2 as in the 2 touchdowns that Michael Carter sniped from him.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yep.
Michael Carter, much like Marlon Mack, Jonathan Taylor's rookie year, is a mere speed bump along the way. I'm not wasting any time. I don't need to see any more. I've seen enough. He is my RB3 overall in a startup, and it's going to be real super hard for Swift to maintain number 2. And I will tell you, probably, I know a lot of people, and I'm sorry, it just doesn't work this way for me. Is it Bijan Robinson from Texas?
Bijan Robinson.
A lot of people are calling him the Dynasty 101. I'm not going to happen. No. You want the crown. We talked about dated history and references. Ric Flair once said, "To be the man, you got to beat the man." And right now, JT's the man. He missed the game last week, but whether you like it or whether you don't, learn to live with it. JT's the best running back in the game today. But guys like Breece Hall, maybe Bijan Robinson, can be like the RB3. I can see where Swift will fall to like the 104, 105. If Najee gets I don't know how the offense is going to flow with Kenny Pickett because he's probably going to be there a year or 3. So for me, I love Breece Hall. What do you think it's going to take to get him right now? At least 2 firsts. They would have to be 2 firsts. Plus,
yeah, it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be a lot. I don't know if he is going to be a good person to try and acquire just because he would be extremely expensive. But that said, if you can, that's absolutely the play. Like if you can trade a Dalvin Cook or somebody who just had a monster game and maybe a little juice or something, absolutely. Because you don't want to deal with the fall off. And a lot, 2017 running back class, they're all about the fall off. And you don't want to be the one that's holding on to them when they do. You would rather have to not worry about that position. So as far as Carter is concerned, I'm getting whatever I can.
Yeah, so Jerry,
that's Breece Hall's.
I got to work with Jerry on his hosting ability. He's supposed to say something like this. Hold on.
No, I knew you were going to bring it up. That's why I was just see.
All right. Well, so you had a premonition.
Foreshadowing. Yes.
Foreshadowing. I like that. So Mike asks, how much are we trying to flip Carter for after the two TD weekend? I'll tell you, I'm going to anybody who's can both. You need to have like the someone who's both contending and hurting at running back. And I mean, I would in a perfect world, I would love to get a first. I'll give you my second and a first. I don't think you're going to get that as hot as 2 seconds, 2 super flex seconds for Michael Carter. Is that reasonable?
I mean, I'll give you Michael Carter in my third. Give me a second. We'll call it good. Thank you.
Man, you're way cheaper. I'm a little bit more greedy. I'm going to try to get 2 seconds.
I don't want to hold on to Michael Carter because at some point he's not going to be worth a wet sock, and I just don't want to be the one holding him when he is.
Well, I'm looking. I pulled up some Breece Hall stats. He's had 2 6-reception games, including a 9 and an 11 target game. You just have to love what you're seeing. He's had a 100-yard receiving game, a 50-yard receiving game, and I'm going to round up and call it a 40-yard receiving game. Oh, but that's not even his primary job. He had 97 yards rushing, and that's a number. His rush attempts went up early in the year. Remember, Jerry, it was Michael Carter's job. Mm-hmm. Breece Hall went from 6, 7, 8 rush attempts last 2 weeks with Mr. Zach Wilson back, 17 and 18.
Yeah.
This almost feels dirty to say. I do believe that we can trust the Jets. GM Joe Douglas. I do believe we can continue to expect him to support Zach Wilson and this offense with more pieces. I think they'll continue. They've done a good job drafting on the defensive side, but I think you're going to continue to see resources pulled into the offensive line. I think you'll see. I'd like to see more Jeremy Ruckert, to be quite honest, at the tight end position. But this is a team that's probably going to finish in like the top 15 of the NFL draft. They're going to be able to add some more. And that's not only like the 15th pick in the first round, but that's like the 47th, 48th overall pick in the second round. So they're going to continue to add. They have a rookie QB on a rookie contract. I do trust this organization to continue to support this offense. So for me, Breece Hall, total steal, Jerry.
I agree. And listen, we just talked about the other rookie running back in Kenneth Walker. What about Seattle's quarterback? I want to get your opinion on Geno Smith, because if there was a person that I was not expecting to be productive, it is Geno Smith. And he has been if he continues it, he is a league winner. He is absolutely a super flex league winner if this trend continues.
Let me keep it real with you, G, one time. Let me keep it real. I see the Geno Smith as a potential Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes type deal. Currently, Seattle has the 9th overall pick, which they would be getting from Denver, and they have their own pick, which I think is like in that same range, right around 10. Yeah. So you're going to have 2 first-round picks. We already know Will Levis is out there. We know Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Richardson out of Florida. There's at least 4. I saw one mock draft that had the Colts taking the QB out of Arkansas. So there's going to be 4 or 5 QBs. If you're Seattle and you like one of those 4 guys, like I think Richardson to be mentored by Geno for you, because he's a great athlete. He has some flashes. But I think he's the kind of guy that you could draft in like that 10-11 position and really let him sit with Geno for a year and learn the ins and outs of being a professional quarterback. And I think for that reason, if Geno contends on this trend, he can probably buy himself one more year as a starter, as a bridge starter, knowing that 2023 will be his last year in Seattle as a starter. But from a Seattle standpoint, you can't, in a year where you have multiple firsts because of the Russell Wilson trade, you can't afford to not potentially take the QB of the future he's there. So to answer your question in a long-winded fashion, which is my style, is that I do like Geno the rest of this year, and I potentially could see him having a gig in 2023.
I think it depends on how the rest of the season goes, because you obviously thought this was going to be the worst team in that division, which sort of goes without saying. But in a division with Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Cliff Kingsbury, it's the Geno Smith-led Seattle Seahawks that have scored the most points in that division, which how much would Vegas have lost if you took that bet back in the day?
If you told the bookies in Vegas,
right,
as my favorite gambling content creator RJ Bell calls them cockroaches. If you told the cockroaches in Vegas back in like the first week of September, hey, through 5 weeks, the team with the most points scored is going to be the Seattle Seahawks. Give me odds. And then you'd bet like $1,000 on it. You'd probably be like a minority partner in that casino right now, because they probably would have given you astronomical odds. You'd be like a minority owner of like the MGM or something, because it would be astronomical, because a bookie or an odds maker, they would have been putting it as the Bills, the Rams, the Chiefs. I mean, someone like that. They're not going to think the Seattle Seahawks, because what was the perception coming into this season? Oh, Russell Wilson's gone. Wilson's gone. It's Drew Lock and Geno Smith. The offensive line's not blah, blah, blah. And how many people, let's move this, because I think we both agree that Geno's going to be fine the rest of this year. Yeah. Kind of thing, like if you're a contender and, Matt Ryan was, not Matt Ryan, well, Matt Ryan could be, and Matt Stafford too, they're fucking killing you right now.
Yeah.
Maybe you go to that GM in a Superflex league and say, hey, what do you want for Geno? And if you have to pay a Superflex, second to get him because you want to win your league, that's the cost of doing business.
Yeah, it's
the cost of doing business, because you got to sell. If you have Tom Brady, and some of these guys, like even Tom Brady's not been great. He's gotten better the last couple of weeks, but he's not like the top 10 QB he was last year. He's the kind of guy that the defense is bad. Like Jared Goff. Jared Goff's cheap, first of all. He's an even cheaper version of Jared Goff.
True.
He's on a good offense, surrounded by talented players. Not quite the offensive line of Jared Goff. No. But what do you think Jared Goff and Geno Smith have in common? You should know this as a Lions fan.
Bad
An
defenses.
equally shitty defense. That is correct.
Mm-hmm.
So guess who was before this past week? Guess who was the number one offense in the league?
The Detroit Lions.
Now it's the Seattle Seahawks. Let's put 2 and 2 together. When you're giving up 30 points a game, you got to score 30 points a game. That's how this works.
Hey,
so
another cheap one, Tyler Lockett. If you are in need of a wide receiver, he's 30 years old. He's never been sexy ever for Dynasty players. He's been nothing but productive this year.
When you finally got me when you said Dynasty players, I'm like, I'm not going to judge this man's attractiveness. A lot of people, I mean, I don't remember what he looks like.
If Tyler Lockett walked by me, I would have no idea he was Tyler Lockett probably, but
with a hat, with a helmet. I mean, it really, like, he would literally have to come out dressed as Tyler Lockett. And even then, I would want to make sure it's not some weird cosplayer.
I'm gonna Google it just in case. Maybe I know Tyler Lockett. No, I've never seen. Oh my God,
handsome.
Tyler Lockett. No. He looks older than 30. But all right, now if I ever walk by Tyler Lockett, I know.
You need to see some ID, sir. So while we're just having fun and just talking football, how sad are people who went the opposite of you? Not to put you over too strong, but you continued to buy into the DK market, even in the face of adversity. And you continued to get DK Metcalf, and you got some cheap DK Metcalf. As both a redraft and a fantasy gamer yourself, do you feel any different about DK today than you did a year ago? Because I know there was this pocket of trepidation from like the minute Russell got traded and, all of this, but do you feel vindicated in that the fact that you believed in his talent and he was too good not to continue to play at a very high level?
I mean, I think I have to feel good about it because even in acquiring DK this season, it was under the expectation that he was not going to do very well. And I was just going to buy the dip. And then when they got another quarterback in there, I would reap the benefits for a depressed cost. Even with it, my man's been good. I mean, and he takes the cart when he has to a poop attack, which is absolutely, how he has to jump up a few spots in your rankings just based on that.
When I saw that, you remember it was either last year or the year before where Lamar Jackson had to, miss like the third quarter of the Cleveland game. Lamar, take notes, sir. You're a quarterback. Now, if the wide receiver one for the team can get the cart to go take a dump, I'd like to think the star quarterback could as well. And speaking of Seattle and speaking of quarterbacks, man, what's going on with Russell Wilson? I mean, he's always been creepy and cringy, but man, he does not look good. Are you buying this shoulder lat thing?
I just think it's a totally new situation. It's something that he is not comfortable with, and it is taking time. I think Russ will be okay. And I think it's creating an opportunity because it's super popular to hate on Russ right now. And when that sort of narrative comes out, that's when I like to pivot. That's when, okay, now's my time to go after him. I don't love him, and I don't think I don't think we're going to see old Russ. Like Russ ain't going to be cooking again. But I don't think he's going to be miserable. I think Jerry Jeudy is talented enough, and I think Cortland Sutton is talented enough that they will be productive, and he will rebound to an extent, and there will definitely be one game at least where he is an absolute old-school Russell Wilson. But, if I can get him for cheaper than I think he should be, then I will definitely go for it. I just think once it's popular for somebody to get hated on, that's when it just keeps building off of that, and that's when you get an opportunity to get some value.
As much as I love value and as much as I love a reclamation project,
you're done with him?
I wouldn't buy him with stolen money. I mean, he looks shot. I don't really buy this shoulder thing. Do you know how magic works? It's all distraction.
Yeah,
it's all distraction. This is a distraction. This is an excuse to play poorly. That's what this is. This is a 30. What did Russ make his bones on as an NFL QB? His mobility and his deep ball.
Also, it's weird that they're not doing like rollouts and stuff with him. Like he has been the king of bootleg, launching the ball down the field for a decade, and they just don't do it. It's weird.
So again, I mentioned other content creators. I mentioned John Middlecoff of the 3 and Out podcast. He was talking about it. He's like, Russell looks heavier. he looks squattier and heavier, like through the middle. Like he's not fat by no means, but like he looks heavier, like he's carrying an extra 15 pounds. He looks very reluctant to do exactly what you said. Like, how many times have you seen games? Because you can't get Russell Wilson off your TV to where he should be running more. He's just not. And he's not extending plays, and I think he's getting sacked more than ever. It's just it does. It says a lot. And I did some digging on Spotrac, looking at his contract. His cap hit this year is like $130 million.
Yeah, he's there.
So like, no, I'm sorry, that's his dead cap. His dead cap is like 135. So by the time I think they can cut him for like 40 million going into 2026. At that point, he'll be about 38 years old. I'll tell you what, I think John Snyder and Pete Carroll, at least through 5 games, looks like they got a really good package, for Russ. And I believe that we're going to look back and think this is one of the worst contracts of the most recent one. I think that and Kyler. But, dude, from a dynasty standpoint, as soon as Russ can string together 2 or 3 games, I'm looking to get out. If I could move Russell Wilson for Zach Wilson right now, done and done. How do you like that take, Jerry? Because we'll kind of start wrapping this one up on Mr. Zach Wilson.
I think that's fair. Just to insert a little bit into Kyler, he's got Hopkins coming back, so I think he'll be okay.
And he's got Call of Duty coming out. So
listen, that's fair. Listen, Hollywood Brown is a fucking star, and I love him.
I know you love him.
And
Rondale Moore's back.
Who gives a shit? Because Hollywood Brown gets 8 catches a game. I love him. I think Kyler will be fine, but Kyler has been sort of brutal too. And Hopkins is not going to fix that. So I think you're right. That contract could be, down the road, look pretty gross. But I think he'll be fine for the remainder of this season, and then we'll have to dictate what is going to happen in the offseason. But before we talk about Zach Wilson, because I do want to talk about Zach Wilson, I want to talk about J.K. Dobbins. Because he is, I want to talk running back. I was going to talk Cam Akers, but I don't need to piss on Cam Akers anymore because Cam Akers isn't worth being on your team. Sorry. He's been absolutely fucking brutal. The injury was bad, and he was never that awesome to begin with. He had a Rashad Penny-esque stretch, and it wasn't even as good as Rashad Penny's was. He's just, that boy is shot. J.K. Dobbins, while he looks good, Randy, it's clear he's just never going to get a workload. And that was the thing that you were worried about when he came in, and it is coming to fruition. And it sucks because I have a few shares of JK, which I really was hoping that he was going to be that extra 20 that I found in my pocket, where you pull it out and you're like, oh, my fantasy team is better because I can now put J.K. Dobbins in my flex. And it's not. It went through the wash, and it's crumpled up, and now I can't use it, and it's unfortunate.
And I'm pulling up some stats real quick on Mr. Dobbins, but I mean, I was always a J.K. Dobbins. Yeah, I mean, you're just going to have to deal with it. 2 weeks ago he had 22 points, and then this past week he had 4, and it's going to fluctuate.
But J.K. Dobbins,
no, but and he's over the last 2 weeks he's been the RB19. So even though he had one really good game, he's behind. But that's kind of the running back position, though, right? I mean, Austin Eckler's put up back-to-back 30-point games, as has Josh Jacobs. By the way, Josh Jacobs very disrespected, never on this program.
No,
you know what Josh Jacobs.
But Nick Chubb has been by both of us, and he's been doing great. But anyway, Josh Jacobs.
But do you know what Josh Jacobs' only crime is?
What's that?
Being boring.
Yeah, he's vanilla ice cream. That's what I said when he came out. He's vanilla ice cream.
People, 2 years ago he was the RB8. Last year he was the RB12. This year he's like the RB 3 or 4 on the season, and we're just trying. And the really sharp analysts are always looking reasons to fade him.
Yeah,
and you know what? They just always fade him at their peril. But I do want to get back to my boy Zach Wilson. Okay. Gangrene. I think first of all, I said it earlier. If I can get Zach Wilson for Russell Wilson, that is a steal. Jerry, if I had to ask you, the 2 games since Mr. Zach Wilson has been back from his knee injury, where would you say he ranks in the quarterback position? Standard ESPN scoring out of 1 through 32, or I don't know how many quarterbacks have played in the 2 weeks. Because I know you got some Bailey Zappi and some how about Skylar Thompson? And so out of all the quarterbacks that have played in weeks 4 and 5, where do you think Mr. Zach Wilson would rank?
RB or QB 14.
You are good at this game. He was the QB 13 over the last 2 weeks. Guys, that's a borderline QB 1.
Yeah.
And his 2 weeks aren't eye-popping. He had like an 18 and change and then a 16 and change. Here's the thing. He did that against Miami. Miami's defense is legit. They didn't get shellacked by Buffalo. Miami, they didn't get shellacked by Cleveland. I mean, they put up the 20-ish points or whatever. That's a legit defense. And I don't remember who the other game was that they played. It was a 2 wins in a row. I do know that. And
they got Green Bay coming up.
It's a little bit
Pittsburgh. They played Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they played. Thank you. They played Pittsburgh, a team that should historically have beat them.
I think the thing that's most impressive is it's not dinking and dunking, right? Like he had 18 completions in the Pittsburgh game, 250 yards. He had 14 completions in the Miami game, 210 yards. So, it's not 9 yards per completion where it's just boring as hell. He's actually throwing the ball, which is you love to see. And I mean, a lot of the weapons have been valuable too, which is great.
And kind of the same point I had with your boy Kenneth Walker. This is really the back end of his training camp because he got hurt in camp. So he's kind of getting in football shape and in game ready. And yeah, they do have a couple of tough QB matchups coming up with the Packers and the Broncos. And the Patriots are going to be tough. So there's going to be a nice buy window on Zach Wilson in about week 10. That's his bye week. We're going to see him get roughed up and maybe not. But, then he's going to go, a couple of decent matchups with the Bears and the Vikings. He's got your Lions in there. And then he ends the season. He ends the season with the Seahawks and the Dolphins, who he's already played well against.
Look at the playoff stretch, though. Lions, right? Poop. Jacksonville, pretty poop. Seattle, poop defense. Like that's a hell of a matchup, a hell of a playoff matchup there.
And Jacksonville is currently ranked 9th against the fantasy QB. That's a little bit of a fugazi in there because that has that really shit-tastic game from my buddy, Mr. Matt Ryan. But Gerald, so good to have you back on the podcast, man. Good to know that you're doing good.
Good to be back on the podcast. It's always weird to not be on it, but feels good to be back. Hear your voice.
So we can't forget, we always go out on a trade. So I am going to quickly pull this up so that we can discuss this here right quick, and we'll get these fine folks out of here. So my buddy Daniel H, keeping me sane when I was ill, talking trades with me, talking Dynasty fantasy football with me, and he recently made a trade. He is a contender in this league. He has won the league 2 years in a row. He's been working with us for a couple of years. I'm just going to humble brag, throw that out there. He's been working with the Dynasty WarZone for all that time. I'm not saying it was all us, but we may have helped. We may have helped a bit. And he was like, would you give your first and David Montgomery for Mike Evans and 2023 seconds? And my first question is are you a contender? He's like, yeah, this is the team where I've won back-to-back years. He's like, my first is probably going to be like 111, 112. And I'm like, you're getting 2 seconds. He's like, yeah, they'll probably be mid, maybe a little bit worse. I was like, so let me get this straight. You get the better player in Mike Evans over David Montgomery. You're moving back from like maybe 111, 112 projected into like the mid-second. So you're moving back about a half a round, maybe 8 picks-ish, and picking up an additional pick. I'm like, how could this be a bad trade for you? Monty's already missed time with injury. He's done that. It could happen again this year. Mike Evans just puts up 1,000 yards receiving every year, and they're trying to go out on top. So for me, I was like, this is a slam dunk on the Mike Evans 2 second side. I was like, I hate giving up 23 firsts, but when it's, on a back-to-back champion projected to be a super late first, and you're not going to be in that top 6, 7 picks where the QBs and the running backs are going to be, screw it. Because you can still get, because what are you going to get the 111, 112 in a super flex? A wide receiver of some point?
Yeah.
So what are you going to get at, 206, 207? A wide receiver of some sort. Yeah. So why not slide back the half a round, get the proven wide receiver to bolster the wide receiver ranks, and pass up on the running back that's going to be a free agent next year, and we have no idea where he'll be. So for me, this was a pretty slam dunk.
Me too. The only reason I wouldn't is if I was really light on running back, in which case I would use Monty in a first to get a better one. But I'm just going to guess, if you're a back-to-back champion, you have not been relying on David Montgomery to win you those championships. So you are free to move him for just about any damn thing that you want.
Well, I'm going to come back over the top. Like in poker, we both love poker. Let me check raise you.
Right.
And to say this, for some reason down the road, if you needed extra running back depth, you could take one of those 2 seconds you're getting in that deal and pick up a Band-Aid type running back.
True.
Maybe a Melvin Gordon, if you're desperate, someone like that's going to have value on a contender. So that's why I think this works out so well for him. He's got the running back depth to make the move now. The two additional picks will give him another player in the second round, and gives him some maneuverability if he needs to make a move down the road. Because people love picks. As we get deeper in the season, the more people get out of the race, the more people start collecting picks. So, there'd be a ton of running backs to pick up.
Yeah. And it feels like there's one too many seconds in this deal, probably. But I mean, if he's the one that's getting it, then absolutely.
I'm not going to say no, that's too much.
Yeah,
exactly. I've never seen a Dynasty trade where I thought, man, this son of a bitch is offering way too much. Well, let me
I better get rid of it for him.
Let me reprise this with only 1 second, because I would feel bad. How am I going to sleep at night? I'll tell you how I'm going to sleep at night. I'm going to sleep on a comfy pillow made of your second round picks. But we got to go out with a trade. That was a trade that was from our boy Daniel over at patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. That's what it means to be a Patreon. You can get your trade read on the air. You can DM me when I'm not feeling well. Maybe I can DM you when you're not feeling well. These are all part of the things we do. And the group chat's great. I absolutely love the group chat. I'm in there quite a bit, Jerry too, but we can't always get in there. And that's when, some of the other Dynasty WarZone content creators like Jesse and Chad, we're always in there. We're always mixing it up. We like to use that collective IQ. And it's all over at patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. And Jerry, big news from Hate Brand Goods.
Ooh.
So Matt, the creator, he used to be like a world champion Highland Games guy, but he has transitioned to what I would just call like a fitness adventurer. And he's built this Toyota Tundra that he, drives around. It's totally customized. And he is giving it away this month on their website. Well, you according to the Instagram promotion, you can win the truck or $15,000 cash. Your choice. Go to hatebrandgoods.com. You can see all that. How do you get entered? It's a good question, Jerry. It is
a good question.
Every item that you buy, every dollar is considered an entry into this contest. They do these once a month. They gave away a cold plunge tub. They gave away a sauna last month. That was the one I was hoping to win. I've always wanted like the little mini indoor sauna. I put it in my garage, but I didn't. Someone did, and someone's going to win a Toyota Tundra. He calls it the Fundra. It's got these custom pull-out storage bins. It's got a tent on top. Have you ever seen a tent on top of a pickup truck with a camper shell? It's got it. It's got it. So like if you live out there in Iowa in farm country, you and Mrs. Jerry, you win the Fundra. You buy some goat shorts, the Hate Brand goat shorts. You drive out in the middle of the cornfields of Iowa before they harvest them. You pull up in your Fundra that you won from buying some shorts, and you open up this tent, and then you guys can sleep on top of a pickup truck, which is kind of good. You're elevated. Badgers. I don't know what kind of vermin they have out there in your way of the world in Iowa. Like I know Michigan obviously has like badgers and wolverines.
Yeah, no. So far it's just been a bunch of rabbits. You got a ton of rabbits.
Well, you don't want to get caught.
We don't have to worry about rabbits, but
Well, if you're on top of a pickup truck, absolutely not.
Absolutely.
Rabid rabbits.
Your lettuce is totally safe up there.
There you go. So check out Hate Brand Goods. That's HVIII.com, or go to Apple or the Google Play Store. Their app stores, you search HVIII, it'll pop up. You can also follow Matt. You can follow the brand at Hate Brand Goods on Instagram, and you'll see all the promos about how to get involved with winning that Toyota. And don't be afraid to use the code Memphis at checkout to save a couple of bucks. So there it is, Jerry. Another show, first time in 2 weeks. Work got you one Tuesday. Baseball got me the other. The show goes on, and I want to thank Chad and Jesse and Dallas and all the guys for creating great content and giving us some flexibility in our schedules to keep the Wednesday streak alive, as well as just push out kick-ass football content.
True, except for Kyle, because he beat me by 0.02 points.
Except Jerry said, fuck Kyle, because he beat me by 0.02 points. Well, all right, we're going to get out of here. That man's name is Jerry Sinclair, the King. You can follow him on Twitter at JerrySinDWZ. You can follow me at DWZ Memphis. You can follow the show, especially YouTube, but just find Dynasty Warzone on all your socials. And remember, here at the Dynasty Warzone, we are just trying to make the place a better world for fantasy football. Have a great week, guys. Good luck in week number 6.